So you've decided to start doing debate, which is an exciting opportunity and something that we are really happy that you have chosen to do. But most people, when they think about debate, only think about it in terms of a speaking activity. However, if you want to get better at debate, in fact, if you want to improve at all at debate, one of the first things that you have to come to understand is that debate is just as much a listening activity as it is a speaking activity. So today, and over the next several videos that you'll be able to follow along with at the end here, we're going to talk about one of the most basic skills to being a good debater, and that is the ability to flow. Now, flowing has a little bit of a different dynamic depending on which style of debate that you do. And at the very end, you'll have some examples of different types of videos that show you how to flow, for example, in a policy debate round, and whether that is a two-person policy debate round in high school or college, or if it's an NFALD round, which is policy for college debate round. There will be examples on how to flow for high school Lincoln Douglas, as well as examples on how to flow for high school public forum debate that should help you out a little bit as you go. But the most important thing is that it's a way for you to write down the information so that you have a written record of what happened. Now, you might think, why is it important that I know exactly what's going on? There's a couple of reasons for this. The first reason is that if you don't know what your opponents are saying, it's almost impossible for you to adequately respond to them. It's kind of like this example. If you went to your mother and say you're 15 years old and you said, I would like to drive my car or your car downtown to a bunch of bars at midnight tonight. Now, your mother might say to you, no, and give you 3 reasons. She might say, number 1, you're not 16, so it's against the law. Number 2, I'm your mother, and I said no matter what. And number 3, at midnight it's dark and you don't have very good eyesight, so driving around downtown is probably not the best thing for you to do. Now, if all you responded back was to say, well, I know you said that I'm only 15, but in some places you can drive as young as 14 if you have parental permission, and I'm really not going to get caught because I'm going to follow all the speed limits and those types of things. And then you also said, and honestly, I've got really good night vision. I'll be super careful. Like I'll use my lights, and I even bought these special glasses that allow me to see in the dark. You still wouldn't win that argument because you had dropped or you had not answered the second of the 3 arguments, which was the argument where she said, I said no, and no is the final answer. Now, I'm not suggesting that you necessarily try to have this argument with your parents, but the reality is that if you don't answer every argument in debate, you'll lose the round because the other team or the opponent can say that you had conceded their main argument. So flowing is a really good example of something that you need to be able to do so that you keep track of the arguments that are being said and so that you can get better at writing those things down. Now, besides just that, there are a couple of different things that we're going to talk about flowing. Number 1 is this. When you flow, no matter what, always flow in pen. There's no excuse for not flowing in pen. It's faster. It doesn't have to worry about your lead breaking, and it doesn't smear. So find a pen that you like. I know a lot of people like Pilot G2s. Honestly, it doesn't really matter. And when you're first starting off, I would definitely suggest that you flow in 2 colors of pen. One for the affirmative and one for the negative. Second thing is this, that you will fail at flowing. Everyone's terrible at it when they first start. And so when you see some of the examples here later, I want you to know that nobody is good at flowing when they first start. It's a skill. You have to practice it a lot. That's part of the reason that as you go through the examples, I'm going to give you lots and lots of examples of different types of affirmatives to flow. And you should learn how to flow them, whether the person is speaking slowly and methodically, or if they're speaking a little bit more quickly. You need to be able to write down the basics of what they say. Finally, in a lot of styles of debate, a lot of the evidence that is read off of a laptop, so there is oftentimes what is called a speech doc. This is a piece of a file that is just exactly the speech the person's going to be making that you can read along with while you're flowing. And I'll be honest with you, That's not a bad way to flow if it allows you to catch up on something that you might have missed. Because honestly, nobody can write word for word what someone else is saying. But as you're flowing, you're trying to get the basic ideas. And if you have the exact document that they're reading off of, you can flow some of those things from their actual document. It's most important that you get the basic ideas. And so to finish up this video, I want to talk about what the most important things that you want to get are, and then I'm going to show you an example of what that looks like. The most important things that you want to get when you're flowing are, number one, the tag. The tag is the basic argument. It's a 1 or 2 sentence summary of what the person is getting ready to say. So for example, if I had read an article that talked about how the US economy is declining from the New York Times, and the article was like several paragraphs long, and I was going to be reading some of those paragraphs, I might just flow the words US, econ, and then a down arrow. The reason is that that gives me kind of a summarization of what they said. And then I might want to make some kind of a mark to show that they read evidence about it, that it wasn't just something they said off the top of their head. The second thing that you want to flow, if possible, is the cite. This is the author and the year that the person is saying. The year is many times more important, but if you can get the year and the author's last name, that will help you reference those arguments later. Finally, if you can write down some of the words that are in the evidence itself, like it says maybe or kind of or should, or maybe it says this is the most important thing ever. All of those would be great things to write down. As you're coming up with your flow, what I would suggest that you do is that you need a different piece of paper for each major argument that is going to be in the debate. In policy debate, we oftentimes call these contentions or advantages in the constructives, and disadvantages, counterplans, critiques for the negative. And what I would suggest that you do is take a sheet of paper. You can flow on a regular letter size sheet of paper, although it's most of the time easier to flow on a legal sheet. And what I would do is I would make columns for each speech. So for policy debate, there are 8 speeches in high school. The 1AC, the 1NC, the 2AC, the 2NC, the 1NR, the 1AR, the 2NR, and the 2AR. Since the negative has 2 speeches back to back, you only really need 7 columns. And it would sort of look something like this once it's all said and done, where you have a column for the first speech. Next to it, you have answers that have been made. Next to it, you have answers that have been made. And next to it, you have answers that have been made. I'll put this exact sheet up later so you can see an example of what a flow looks like for an entire debate. Now, if you want to start trying this over the next few minutes, I would suggest that you watch the videos that I'm going to be showing that detail out specific cases. Flow them, and then look at the flow that I have of the exact same speech. See if you can kind of get a basic idea of what was said, how it was engaged, etc. And I really think that if you do those, plus the card drill at the end, you'll get a really good understanding of how to flow. If you have any questions, make sure you email me. Thanks.